Okay, very good, Cynthia. Let me ask you this. For you, what is the hardest thing about this piece for you?
Um, Maybe the ornaments.
Very good. Right. Exactly. Ornaments. Right now. What are ornaments?
Um, mm,
Well, think about it this way. What are ornaments on a Christmas tree?
Decoration.
They're decorations. Fantastic. Exactly. So when we call them decorations, what that implies is that the ornaments are not a fundamental part of the structure, right? They're kind of on top. It's like you're sprinkling a little bit of sugar on top to make it just a little bit more sweet, right? So there's a lot of ornaments in this piece, aren't there? Right? And so the ornaments are there, like I just said, is to kind of enhance the music, but they're not there to kind of change the shape of it. So what I want you to do for me, do you have the music?
Yeah.
Okay, you can pull that up and put it on the piano, and we're gonna just do it. We're gonna go through it. Uh, we're gonna play the first phrase, and then actually, my question to you is, can you play the entire first phrase without any of the ornaments as it's written? So give it a try. See what happens. Okay. Good. Right. And then this is kind of, we would maybe consider this the second half of the phrase. Right? So if we have those two things, our essentially, if I were to ask you to tell me the story of this piece, what happened in this first phrase? What do we have here? Uh, I think you're muted. There we go. That's better. Okay. So what do we have in this first phrase?
Um,
So at the very beginning, we start with one hand, correct?
One what?
One hand. You're just a right hand playing, right? And then what happens after that? The same thing is played again, isn't it? But by the other hand, right? So essentially, a lot of this piece is this idea of the two hands kind of chasing each other, right? And this composer, Rameau, and composers of this time, essentially, first of all, he wrote this for an instrument that's not the piano. Did you know that? So the instrument that he wrote this on tended to have two different keyboards. So playing this, first of all, was quite a bit easier, right? Because instead of being on top of each other, you could be on two different instruments, right? And the second thing, and the more important thing about having been written for a different instrument, is that they were not able to sustain. In other words, we can hold a note, right? And it's nice and long. If we want it to be long, we can hold it for longer. Right? But back in the day, when it was on harpsichord, they couldn't do that. So this is one of the major reasons why there are so many ornaments, right? It's to fill up that space. Now, back to the plot, kind of, or the story behind the piece, right? So the first thing we have is this first figure, which is then replied to again. And then what happens? Now we have both hands playing at the same time, correct? All right. So what's the left hand doing and what's the right hand doing?
Talking.
Yeah, exactly. They're having a dialogue, right? So now, my question to you is, now this might be a little bit of an unfair question, but which one is more important at this point in the third measure, the left hand or the right hand?
In the third measure. Left hand.
Haha, yeah, you caught the trick. Yeah, and in many ways, the left hand is more important. Why? Why is it more important?
For the third measure.
Yeah, third measure and fourth measure. When you have these, in this section here, in these three measures, right, where we have the two hands playing together, you said the left hand is more important. Why is it, though?
I think I said the right hand.
Oh, you said the right hand. Okay. All right. Well, okay, so that was the trick question. Yes. Technically speaking, I would say that they're both important, but in a lot of ways, it's actually the left hand is more important. And do you want to know why? Okay. Well, in general, music, just like a house, is built from the ground up. Okay? So, like your house, you have a foundation, right? And you have a basement, and then you got to build up from there. If you have a bad foundation and your basement is not so solid, what happens to your house?
It collapsed.
It collapses. Exactly. So in music is similarly built from the bottom up in Western music, especially. Right? It's built from the bottom up, meaning that the bass notes, the lower notes, they tend to be the foundation for the entire music. So in this case, the left hand, which is lower than the right, is playing the foundation. It's playing the role of the foundation. So we need to really hear it because that's what the harmonies are built on. Now, of course, it's not as interesting in a lot of ways as the right hand, right? Because the right hand has all the notes and it has all the ornaments and stuff. But what I'm asking you, Cynthia, is to listen a little bit more intently. So to listen, to concentrate on hearing bum, bum, boom, boom, right? And as you said before, so lovely, you said that they were having a dialogue. But what's required to have a dialogue? Well, we need two people and they need to be talking to each other, right? Okay. Can you play it again and kind of give me a little bit more of that dialogue? So in practical terms, a little bit more volume from the left hand in the third measure, fourth measure, and fifth measure. Okay?
So, can I add the ornaments this time?
Yes, you made it. Okay. And before we start again, the thing, going back about the ornaments, right? Remember that the ornaments, like I said, are decorational. So, in other words, generally speaking, they should be a little bit lighter. So we don't want too much, right? Make them less important, almost like you're throwing them off, right? Pretend they're easy, and eventually they will become easy, okay? No, seriously. Like, try to feel like that they're not a big problem. So the less you think of them as a problem or something difficult, kind of less difficult they become. Don't worry about playing them too quickly, the ornaments. Just let them be, okay? But yes, now you may play it with ornaments. Let's give it a try.
Can I ask a quick question before Cynthia plays?
Yeah, sure.
How do we balance ornaments being part of the melody and not making them too difficult and like you suggested, just relaxing, throwing them off? How do we balance those two options?
Oh, that's why generally I like for students to be able to play it without ornaments, right? Because not only are you training your hands when you're practicing, you're also training your ears. So if you learn to hear what the line is without any of the extra stuff, right? And then when you add, right, whatever it is that you want to add to them, it becomes that extra layer, that kind of pixie dust that makes the music more beautiful, but it doesn't take away from what's already there, right? It's like we can't put too many ornaments on the tree or else it's going to bend over, right? It's the same idea, okay? So give it a try, please. And yeah, just make your little trill, especially that one, just a little bit lighter, okay? All right, let's give it a try. Good. All right, much better. So now the ornaments are of a good volume. Now let me ask you this. In the left hand here, measures 3, 4, and 5, the same three measures. If I were to ask you, if you imagine that line was being played by a cello, okay, do, di, boom. This might be a little bit of an advanced question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. how would the cellist bow it? What would they connect, in other words? You should always ask yourself, and this is a good way of looking at music, what notes belong together and what notes don't belong together. So if we're just looking at this part, what notes belong together and what notes belong in different groups? Okay. Yes. So these are, you just told me C, B, A. Those are the important notes, right? Now, but what about the eighth notes? So we have these eighth notes, right? So there's actually two ways of grouping them. I want to give you option A and option B, and I want you to tell me which one you think is a bit more natural, okay? I'm going to put this up here so you can see my hands. So option A goes like this. Right? So option A is essentially I'm including this plus the next note as one group, and then this plus the next note as one group, this plus the next note. You see? Okay? Now, option B is this. Now I'm going to include bum, 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 dun, dun. Option A or option B? Which one sounds better?
Maybe B.
Yes. Very good. Good instincts. Yes. Oh. Yes. Sorry, 1 second. Something just popped up on my computer. Okay. Yes, option B. Why? Because music, generally speaking, goes just one way, forwards, right? We don't play the measure afterwards. Before, we always are moving forwards. So in general, we want our short notes to go to the next long note, right? So in this case, it'd be bum, 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 yum, bum, bum. So can you really hear that? Make sure that those short notes, the eighth notes, are going to the dotted quarters. Can you just give that a try for me, the left hand? Yeah, this was good. Make sure that I would even go as far as say you don't have to play completely legato, right? So I would separate there, right? And then separate. And then separate. Good. Yes. It gives it much more profile. It gives it much more. It's much easier for the listener to distinguish that, especially when you combine it with the right hand, because now you have all this busy work in the right hand, and now you have a nice profiled shape in the left hand. So you get. Okay. Now can you try that for me? So now we're gonna add both hands together. Okay. Yes. Okay. Good. Now, there's a little thing that I try to tell all my students, which is bar lines. You know, the bar lines that you see in the music, they're not real. They don't really exist. Now, let me explain myself. They're not real because if you're asking a listener, do you know where the bar lines are? Unless they really know the piece, they don't know where the bar lines are. They're not real, right? So the bar lines are there to help you as the pianist to organize the music in distinct rhythmic chunks, right? 2 beats, 2 beats, 2 beats, so forth. That helps you, right? However, it becomes a problem when we start showing the audience where the bar lines are. It's like a magician showing how the trick is done. You don't want to ever do that, right? So what we want to do is make sure that we're not going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. In other words, showing where 1 is, right? So make sure, generally speaking, we go into 1 and make sure that it's not too late. So for most people, they actually have their tendency is to be a little bit later on beat number 1. And that makes it seem like this is special. And therefore, when you do it a few times in a row, it becomes very obvious. Okay? So let's try it again from the beginning and make sure that we don't, right? Like pause there. Excuse my playing, but you get the idea, right? Is that we kind of want to keep the music moving which direction? Forwards. Yes, very good. Okay, give it a try, please. From the beginning. You can go from the beginning. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, that was nice. All right, do it one last time and give me like 20% more volume for the left hand, right? Just a little bit more left hand. Ah, hey, that sounded great. Now, this is just a technical consideration. Did your teacher tell you to put the left hand on top? Or did you kind of figure that out yourself?
I forgot.
Okay, because I think it's probably easier if you have the left hand under. Like this. Right? Because then you can just hop over with the right hand afterwards. I don't want you to change it, but can you just try it out and see how it feels? So in other words, Cynthia, instead of doing this, right? You see how the left hand is over the right? I would go under. Right? Give it a try and see how you feel. Does that feel easier? Well, play it the other way, right? So whenever you have two options, and this is a good way to treat practicing and deciding what you're going to do musically, always do a comparative study. In other words, you have option A, option B, sometimes option C and D, whatever. However many options you have, play through all of them and then kind of decide which one you like best or sounds best, right? Okay, so try the other way around and see if it feels better. What do you think? Yeah, it's something you don't have to make up your mind now, but it's just something to ponder and think about, because it does happen a lot, right? There's a lot of this kind of hand crossing stuff, and it's always best if the piece were a little bit faster. The piece is not too much faster than this. I would recommend the left under, because then you don't have to do a double crossing. Okay, so moving on. Let's continue. So what is that? That's measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At measure 6, what happens with the two hands?
They switch around.
Yes, exactly. They switch roles, right? The right hand now gets the longer notes, and the right hand gets longer notes, and the left hand gets the running arpeggiated stuff that we had before, right? So when they switch roles, we have to also show that, right? Whenever something changes in music, it's something that you want to show the listener. Because not everybody's going to get it, right? So if you're very obvious about it and show us, it's good for how you tell the story of the piece, right? So practically speaking, what does that mean? That means at this point, probably giving your right hand that same grouping, right? Right? Separating before the eighth note, okay? So can you play me just the right hand from there? Or from the measure before? Yep. Yes, okay, so now, that one especially could be a little bit softer and less important. So the very first trill right there on the on the B flat. So when you're doing that trill, can you just do that trill for me? Let me see it quickly. Yeah. So yeah, no problem. Mechanically, absolutely no problem playing it, right? So very good. Sorry. Make sure that it's just a little bit softer, right? Because the phrase is what? Is essentially we're kind of tapering down there at that point, right? So we don't really want that kind of accent there. Got it? Okay, give it a try, please. Yes, so in fact, you can just kind of roll the A into the trill. Can you just do that? Da-da-dum. Yes. Yeah, and in fact, I wouldn't hold on to the thumb so much because right afterwards you have another ornament, right? So in fact, if you watch, Cynthia, if you watch me do it, I'm just letting the thumb go. So that you have that nice separation there, right? There's a little bit of air because it is kind of, at this point, still a very light piece. Kind of. All right, can you give it a try for me? Yeah. Okay. Nice. Okay. Now, this phrase is going where? Where's the top? Where's the top? Yes. Now, and this is another kind of thing that is a result of him writing this for the harpsichord, which was that on harpsichord, I don't know if you know this, you can't really play loud or soft. Right? So on piano, we can touch the key very gently and it's very soft, right? And then if we hit it really hard, it's very loud. On the harpsichord, no matter how you touch the key, it's the same volume. So, yeah, it's kind of sad. So unfortunately, you cannot create crescendos, decrescendos, subito pianos, forzando. None of these things exist on the harpsichord. So instead of using dynamics to create expression, do you know what they did? Well, they took time. They played around with timing to show something is important. So if I wanted to show something is important and the only tool that I have is taking time, how would I show an important note? Do I arrive at it early or late?
Late?
Yes, right? Because arriving at it late makes people listen for it, right? Because they're thinking, oh, where is it? Where is it? Right? So in this case, and this is kind of a byproduct of the way of expressing in these kind of mid-Baroque-ish pieces. Right? Because that's the high point. So you can be a little late arriving there to show us, yeah, this is the high point. Okay? Can you give that a try for me, please? Yeah, not bad, not bad. You can do, just give me the right hand. Right? And make sure, remember what we said about the bar lines, right? Every now and then when you show like a big important beat, that's fine. But as we go on, we keep on going, right? Don't take too much time after that, right? Think about timing. When we play around with timing in music, it's kind of like a rubber band, okay? When we stretch the rubber band, what ends up happening? If I stretch it really, really far, what happens to the rubber band? It breaks, exactly. And we don't want a broken rubber band, right? So you stretch it, you gotta let it back. Stretch it, let it back, okay? Just the right hand. Yes, very good. Okay, now let's add everything together. We're going to play the first 2 lines of the piece, or the first, what is it? It's the first 9 measures. Yeah. All right, so let's play the first 9 measures, and let's just try to keep the things that we've been talking about in mind, please. Okay, give it a try. Left hand. Yeah. Very good. Just make sure that your left hand is, remember, the basement. Good foundations. Yes. Very good. Keep going. Okay, very good, very good. So, Cynthia, what happens here in the music? This is a very specific thing, right? Do you know what this is? So the same thing happens a bunch of times, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not the same each time, is it? What's the difference? Even though it sounds very similar, what's the difference? What's it doing?
It's going down.
Yeah! Each one is going down. It's going down by step, right? This is what we call a sequence. It's a sequence, meaning we have a pattern, right? And then we take that pattern and then we shift it, in this case, down. And then what do we do after that? We shift it down, right? So now we have to make that clear. We have to hear each one as kind of a step, right? It's like you're going down the stairs, okay? That's thing number one about the sequence. Thing number two is these. Do you think those are important? A little. Yeah, you're not wrong. They are a little important, but generally speaking, when we have repeated notes, they're kind of fill, right? They're filling the texture. So, they should be a little bit lighter because we have so many of them, right? We have 4 of them, and then the next step down the staircase, we have another 4 of them, right? And then we go down the staircase again, and we got another 4 of them. We got a bunch of them, right? So they tend to get a little bit too present in the texture. Meaning what? Well, just like we said before, it's like your Christmas tree, right? If your Christmas tree's got a billion ornaments, you can't see any tree. So, so what I'm asking for is there any way you could play those a little bit lighter? Tiny bit lighter and a little bit more airy. See what I'm doing here? I'm allowing them to, I'm letting go. Can you give that a try, please? Just the right hand. Just let me see that motion right there. Yeah. And in fact, think about the trill, or the mordant in this case, as one motion. It's have you ever seen an eagle grabbing a fish? You ever seen it on TV? No? So when they come in, when they fish, they come in, and they grab the fish at the water, they go boom, and they come out, right? They're not going swimming. They grab the fish and they leave. So it's the same thing here when you're playing. We're just gonna grab and leave. Aha! Yes, that's a very different thing, right? So it's a lot sharper, it's a lot shorter, it's a lot airier, right? It's a little bit lighter, so that we can hear, right? The stuff in the left hand. Okay, now let's put that all together and make sure that same thing afterwards. That those are equally light, and remember, going which direction? Very good. Let's give it a try. Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Big improvement. Now, So when I teach, I make a lot of analogies, and some of my students don't like that. But imagine if you're throwing a baseball, okay, and 9 out of 10 times it goes left from where you want it to go, right? So I'm trying to hit the middle, but I keep on going left. How do I fix that problem?
Stand right.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of aiming for the middle, because I know I'm constantly going left, I gotta go to the right, right? I gotta overcorrect. So why am I saying this? Well, the general instinct here that you have in this piece is to be slightly behind the beat, right? So it's almost like we're leaning back in terms of the rhythm. However, this is not really a kind of leaning back, slow, gentle kind of piece, is it? What would you, if you were to put an adjective on this music, what would you call it? What would you say? If you had to describe this piece to me. Lively. Yeah, exactly. It's lively. And so lively things tend to be on the front side of the beat, not on the back side, right? We're not trying to get slower, right? So just like the pitcher who's trying to pitch towards the right, I think I want you to try to be on the front side of the beat. So pushing it forwards is a little bit more. It might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but give it a try for me, please. From here. This is already much better. So, what if I asked you to do it without the ornaments? Can you give that a try for me? Yeah, so it's difficult, right? Because you've learned it so well. You play it very well, but you've learned it very well. But always remember that learning, there's kind of different parts of the process, right? When we're playing the piano, we have to train not only the hands and the fingers, but we're also training what? Yeah, your brain, but what are these? Under my headphones. Your what? Your ears, yeah, because at the end of the day, music is heard through the ears, right? So I keep on asking you to play it without the ornaments because I want you to hear how it sounds with that kind of forward motion, okay? So that's something to consider. I'm not going to keep on harping on that. But, so can we start from after, or well, actually, start from the same place and keep playing, please, okay?
Without ornaments?
You can put them back in, but when you put them back in, try to, just like the pitcher's pitching right, move it forwards. It might feel a little uncomfortable, but play it faster than you think you need to, okay? Okay, good. Very good. So in this section, we start seeing doublings, right? What do I mean by that? Well, things start to repeat, don't they?
Yeah.
Right. So generally, now this is more of a stylistic thing. There's not a right or wrong answer. So in music, there's a lot of these situations where you're going to have gray areas, right? Things that are it can be discussed, subjective, if you will. There are other things that are like, no, this is how it is, right? And then there are other things where it's like, well, we can talk about it, right? So when things tend to be repeated in music, most of the time, especially in Baroque music, and especially for people who play a lot of Baroque music, what they do is they make a very clear distinction between the two repetitions, right? So, for example, maybe they play the first one forte, then the second one would be piano, so that you have that contrast, right? Because in terms of most art, contrast creates interest, right? Imagine if you were looking at a painting and everything was gray. It'd be pretty boring, wouldn't it? Right. So let's try from here. This right. So play around. Maybe make the first time forte and the second time piano. See how it sounds. Okay. You can even take a tiniest of breaths in between the two of them, right? Because remember, just like the other things, we're trying to show the audience, right? Because I know you know it, but again, sometimes you have to exaggerate a little bit so that the audience can understand, okay? So give me a little bit more difference, in other words, between the forte and the piano, and perhaps take the tiniest bit of breath in between the two different repetitions, okay? Good. And then when here, you can go back to, right, a little bit more forte. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that one does not have to be so fast, right? Because the rest of the texture is not so fast. There's no reason for it to be, right? Because you have plenty of time, so it doesn't have to be, right? So yeah, because generally, I joke around with some students to say that whenever I hear their trills, it reminds me of like a bee, just buzzing, right? The trill shouldn't feel that way. It shouldn't feel like there's some kind of insect buzzing around my ears, right? So make sure, especially this one, because we're starting something new at this point, right? That you take some time so that to be able to hear it, okay? Got it?
Yes.
Okay. Can you give that a try for me, please? Yes, that's a lot better. Keep going. That's good. Okay, yeah, it's very good. But you see it, you did it there this time, and you can do even more. Right? So what did I do?
Breathe.
Yes, I breathed right before the very top, right? Just to, again, this idea of showing a little bit more, being a little bit more dramatic, right? Can you do that for me? Yes, very good. Keep going. Okay, yeah. So that here's one of those subjective things where it's more my opinion than anything, right? There's just not me saying a right or wrong answer, but I would probably not trill on that low D for a long time, because generally speaking, just low trills just sound kind of messy. Like if it's long, I find them rather messy. So. Also, we're coming down, right? Are we getting louder towards the end, or are we getting softer?
Softer.
That's a trick question because you got louder, right? So, I mean, yes, you can. I would say that, in fact, the buildup that you have is actually quite nice. I just would not go directly all the way into the last note, in the last chord, because it feels a little sudden. It also feels the sound becomes a little much for what's going on, because it's kind of just, it's starting to rest, right? So, right? So there at the very end, maybe pull it back a slight bit. Okay? Can you try from the very top?
One more minute.
Okay.
Oh.
Yes, keep going, keep going. Dee da dee. Yes, I think that's much more natural and a much nicer way to end the section. And then we begin, right? And this is it's an A-B piece, right? So the next section, it has a lot of the similar things that we talked about in the A section, just in a different key. So remember the things that we covered today, right? Making sure that the ornaments, and this is the most important thing. If you take one thing away from today, is making sure that the ornaments do not take over the music, right? Because remember, ornaments or decorations, they're on top, they're extra. They're there to make the music sparkle a little bit, but they cannot be the center, even though there are a lot of them. I know there are a lot of them. There's a ton. But you also have to understand, back during Rameau's time, ornaments were optional, and you could add more if you wanted, or you can play less. It was something that they kind of decided on the spot, more or less. Okay? Alrighty. So
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cynthia. Now, Cynthia, honey, you are welcome to stay and watch Jerry's masterclass. You don't have to leave. He's going to play Chopin, and I believe, Jerry, what are you going to play for us? Chopin.
I think I'm gonna play Chopin, because my Schubert isn't as prepared. So I think I'm gonna do Chopin.
It's the first ballade, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, Cynthia, 你到了吗?
Yo, what's up?
Yo, you may want to hear this about the Chopin First Ballade. Could be interesting. So you're welcome to stay for the rest of the master class, or you're welcome if you have other students coming. Either way, thank you for playing, Cynthia.
Yeah, thank you, Cynthia.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Larry.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you.
All
right. Jerry, you have something special that you're going to start with, right?
Well, I heard, I think it was your birthday yesterday.
Oh boy, here we go. Why, thank you. Thank you. I very much appreciate it.
Beautifully harmonized.
Yes, very nice, very nice. All right, so hit me with the Chopin whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
This is Ballade number 1, G minor?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to disappear too. Enjoy.
preparation. You put a lot of work into that. I can hear it. So, very good on that front. Now, in a lot of ways, you have some of the opposite tendencies than the last student, which is kind of interesting. I made an analogy about pitching a baseball. So if you pitched a ball 10 times and all 10 times it went left, how do you fix that problem?
You throw more right, I guess.
Yeah. Instead of trying to aim for center, because obviously that didn't work, you have to overcorrect, right? And I'll get into why I'm saying this. I don't want to start there, but that's just something I want to get down before I forget it, because it's been a long day. The thing with the Chopin ballades that is very interesting is that each one of the four, all of them, start on a unison. Right? And then always on a singular note. Do you know why that is?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so yeah, that's a little bit of an unfair question, but it was worth a try. Which is, the ballades in their conception are all almost like improvisations, right? What this idea of starting on a singular note is, Chopin kind of ruminating at the piano. So, and this is particularly true of the first ballade. So, and you get the spirit, you got like 60% there, which is the beginning, this beginning largo, this gesture, this opening gesture is an improvisation. So, by nature of that, the rhythm is, there's much more rhythmic flexibility. Now, this is an important point that I think is true for the entire piece, which is the written rhythm, in terms of like quote unquote the metronomically correct rhythm, is almost never the musically correct rhythm. Those are not the same thing, right? We cannot play like metronomes and make it sound good, in other words, okay? It's a little bit more complex than that. So, the very beginning, before I give you the answers, I'm going to ask you this. How do we make it sound as if it's improvisation? What can we do?
I mean, I guess a little more rubato.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not just rubato. The thing is, rubato is a tool, right? It's a means to an end. And so in this case, what we're trying to accomplish is the idea of uncertainty. That's what makes it sound like an improvisation, is making it sound uncertain. So for example, this first note, you best believe he didn't mean it to be 2 quarter notes plus an eighth. No, right? It's not. It's just a long note, more or less in whatever tempo you're in. The idea is to kind of just listen. Like, I don't know where I'm going. And that's why all these rests exist too, right? They're not there for you to go 1 and 2 and enter, right? No. They're really to tell you, especially this one, when it ends on that F sharp, that uncertainty of dropping that half step, especially here, because you actually do this quite well. I mean, you could do more. Like, you could do like 20-30% more than you already did in terms of stretching the time. Here, you're still giving me what a good student would give me, which is the quarters. I do not care about the quarters whatsoever. Because I'm not really counting in quarters, right? So you also understand what your unit of measurement is, right? And in this case, I just need the measures to make sense. So everything within the measure, it's really kind of variable, and it should. This kind of writing, he's really trying to approximate. Why did he write the triplet? Well, the triplet is as you said, rubato. That's actually a written in kind of rubato approximation. You understand? And you do this really well, but you could do even more. This right here. These moments of stasis. Stop. And this is really important. He writes that crescendo, and then what? It goes to just the singular B flat hanging, correct?
Yes.
We have to really, that's the whole point of it, is to hear that intensity, and then everything drops. And then we begin the piece proper. Okay? So let me hear this opening, this largo opening, and really allow these guys. What am I pointing to?
The ears?
Yeah, allow your ears to guide the rhythm, not the other way around, right? Play around with it and see what you can do. Yeah, there. See, you're still fighting that impulse. Making sure all those are even. They really, you don't really need to worry too much. In other words, rhythm at this point is malleable. It's not the forefront of expression in this music. It's not rhythm. It's contour. It's how the shape is moving, right? So it's intertwining. It's doing this. The rhythm is not super important. So, it's not Prokofiev's sonata. It's not. It doesn't have that kind of rhythmic drive. No, the rhythm is incidental in a lot of ways. Now, the very beginning, that first note, what's written there is forte, and what's the word?
Pesante.
Pesante. What does pesante mean?
It's like heavy.
Yeah, it means heavy, peasant-like, right? Heavy. Not aggressive, heavy, right? So when you start that first note, imagine it's like an elephant's foot.
Okay.
It's heavy, but it's very soft. There's a certain roundness to the opening sound. It's not harsh, and it shouldn't feel like an announcement. Boom, here we go. More like this, right? There's a graciousness to that gesture. Can you try it again and make that first note a little bit more round? You know what would help? The gesture by which you play, your preparation for the note is really good, but then the actual playing is very different from how you prepared it, which is kind of interesting, right? The preparation should be the same as the motion. Not your preparation was good and then you see the difference? There was kind of a disconnect before how you prepared and how you played the note. The gesture and the playing of the note should be almost like you would hit a tennis racket, right? With a follow through and nice and consistent. Yeah, that's much better. Yeah, I wouldn't hold on to that too long, right? Because it's a what kind of note? That F sharp?
It's eighth.
Yeah, the eighth part, again, the rhythm is not so important. What's important is the rests. It's almost as if you said something and you ran out of breath mid-sentence. Right? Careful with that. I'm hearing a lot of attack. It's still a little attacky, right? Make sure that the motion is smooth, and if you smooth out your motion and not a sudden acceleration, right? Because sudden accelerations cause impact. We don't want sudden. Smooth. Okay, good. That was pretty good. Now, this, I really want you to hear da, ya, da, da, that minor third. The G does not belong to the C. The G is on its pathway to the B flat. So it goes da, ya. If you were singing it or if you're playing it on a string instrument, there would probably be a slight slide. To make it a little bit more beautiful, right? That's where the expression is. And that's actually, I'm pretty sure why that hairpin is there. You understand? You see how that there's a hairpin there? It's not just that, right? It's we can't obviously do that on the piano because there's no sliding around on the piano. But if you could, imagine that if you could, it's almost what I do when I'm playing it is I hold on to the G a little bit longer so that there's some overlap in the overtones between the G, right? There's that overlap between the two fingers, okay? Give it a try. Pretty good. I would this is, again, now we're veering into the realm of personal opinion, which is I would play this a little later and a little lighter.
Okay.
Just a little bit. Like maybe like take 10% off the volume. I like it. I like that dissonance, right? But when you come in early like that, it almost makes it feel like we're kind of on an offbeat going into the downbeat. And then by itself. When it's by itself, you can drop it immediately. You don't have to filter the pedal. Now, when you want it to disappear, having that harsh edge is actually kind of beautiful, right? It's almost as there's nothing else. It's just that singular B flat hanging by itself. It's a really cool effect. Give it a try. Good. Yes. Now, this.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, question.
By the way, Jerry, that sounds really cool. That was a really neat effect, and I hope you can hear it at home too. It even came through on the speakers. Would you say this section is comparable to recitative?
Yeah, I mean, yes. So Chopin loved opera, right? And it was like the big thing that he never did was he never wrote an opera, but he loved bel canto opera. He loved the drama of it, and it's very clear in this piece. There's a lot of elements of opera, a lot of elements of vocal music, vocality that is included in this, and understanding that generally speaking, singers don't have rhythm. It's a joke, but it's not. Yeah, they play fast and loose with rhythm, right?
Hey, what you on about?
I'm telling the truth. So rhythm is it's malleable, right? And so to make something sound vocal, here's like the crash course of trying to make something sound vocal on piano. A, very legato. B, a lot of overlap in notes so that you get that kind of cool mixing of overtones and then you don't get these harsh edges. And then C, the final thing is the larger the interval, the more time you need to take. Okay. So here's an example. The 10th takes more time, right, than this. Because if someone were to sing that, to get up there would take time. And so that little trick of emulating another instrument, it's important to remember that because most of the times we play, it's best to think of it as you're the conductor, right? And all the different voices in the music are different instruments. They all have to make sense individually, and then they all have to make sense together, right? Once we start layering them. So this thing, it's always very interesting how he double stems, right? He double stems 3 of these notes and not the top 2. And the reason why he doesn't double stem the top two notes, I'll tell you right now. This is my own, again, personal opinion, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. This is almost a pedaling suggestion. You do not want a minor second in the same pedal, in other words. And it would have been a little bit more appropriate on his piano, right? The Pleyel had less of a boomy pedal than modern Steinway does. But the idea is that as you get towards the end of that figure, that you're tapering your pedal. It comes up a little bit so that you don't get that disgusting sound, right? Now, it's all under one slur, is it not? That figure.
Right.
Where does it end? Where does the slur end?
The G.
It ends past the bar line. This is a trend that's going to continue for the entire piece. It's something that this is a theme of today's lesson, is that units, generally speaking, especially in Chopin, he likes to write units that cross over bar lines so that we don't get this division. We don't get, he doesn't want a strong downbeat. He wants, it's one figure. So there's no internal rhythm. In other words, I don't want to be able to fear ba 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 bee ba ba. No, right? This is the beat, and this comes off of the beat, and that's it, right? So this is a slightly more sophisticated understanding of rhythm, where rhythm is determined by the measure, the unit by which we're measuring, right? The same is true in real life. We can choose to measure in millimeters, or we can choose to measure in centimeters, or we can choose to measure in meters, right? And in a lot of ways, we'll get different results based on what unit of measurement we use, right? So if we use millimeters, we're getting very exact. And that's like, say, for example, generally speaking, music that's very rhythmic, very driven, very motoric, we want to use as small of a unit as possible, right? That creates that intensity of rhythm. When we want music to flow, do we still use those small units?
Probably not. It would interrupt it, I guess.
Yeah. The more markers you have, the less flowing it is, right? It becomes very detailed. So in this case, this section's pretty flowing, right? So we want to use larger units. That's not right. Sorry about that. Okay, give it a try. Yeah, very good. This is already much better. Now, these, bum, 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 bum. If we were orchestrating this, what would those be? What instrument?
Probably strings.
Yeah, with a very specific stroke. If you can answer this, if you can, well, not quite, but if you can, okay. So I'll give you the extra credit. It's actually up. They're up bows. It's bum 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 bum. There's a certain lightness to it. It doesn't have a strong jink jink, right? This.
Yeah.
A down bow has a very strong ictus, meaning there's a very strong start to the sound. An up bow kind of sneaks in. So that's what this is. It's rum, 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 right? So we have to think about it like up, 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 right? As opposed to the thing on top. Right? So we have one. This is a pair, correct? The two phraselets are a pair. The first one goes up. And I would be very careful always, and this is again another thing that I'll mention later. When things go to high points, you don't always aim for it. Don't always make the high point the high point. Sometimes shy away from it, like I did. Sometimes it's very beautiful, like this. Instead of right? It's a little less sophisticated. It's just rising, because this is again another vocal analogy. A lot of times getting up there is very difficult, so they don't sing quite as loud when they do that slide up. Okay, that stretch up. It's very beautiful. Give it a try. Yeah, so the second one balances out the first one. So the first one goes, I would really listen to that connection between the D and the C. And then the second one goes the other direction. Right? So generally, the timing of the phrase, the motion happens where? At the beginning. That upbeat, this gesture kind of floats down. So if you imagine, we ramp up in speed, and then we kind of flutter down. And then, okay? Can you give that a try again? Take your time. Yes. Yes, that one. That one especially. First one's a fifth. This one's a what?
10.
The what?
8. Sorry.
It's an octave. It's an octave, right? And also, it goes to major here, right? So the octave is a more difficult interval to arrive at than the fifth. It's just further, right? So if it's further, it takes more time. Think about a violin. In fifth, you can cross a string, but on octave, right? It takes time to get up there. Same thing here. And I wouldn't nail it, right? And then really listen, all of these. It's motivic, that two note figure. I really need you to hear that edge between those two notes, okay? Yeah, this is much more beautiful, right? Because now I hear the difference between the fifth up and then the octave up. Much better. Now, for the first time ever, the eighth note figure is what? It's different, right? This time it's different. What's different about it? This is measure 10. The second half. No, not measure 10. Sorry, measure 14. I'm talking about. What's different about measure 14?
I mean, it's major.
Yeah. But there's another really important factor there that's different. So each one of these was right. Now this time it's.
Oh yeah.
It's what?
Well.
Yeah. Use your words.
It's like. I don't know how to describe it.
It's on the beat. Okay? Every one before it was an upbeat. It always went down, and then this is up, right? Now, look at how beautiful of a composer Chopin is, what he does here. He stresses this leap by changing up. Right? And not only does he change how this enters, this following pattern is not 2 notes, but 3. Oh, this is incredibly beautiful writing. Asymmetry at its best, right? And this is a theme. I want you to, that word, do not forget that word. Asymmetry, not symmetry, asymmetry. Because symmetry, when there's too much of it, it becomes boring, it becomes predictable. And when we get to the other section, the B section, this section, we'll talk all sorts of things about asymmetry. But go on. Go from the... And then really give me this on the beat. Feel how it's different, right? Okay, good. You played this better this time than the last time. Why was it better? My hypothesis here is that you're listening a little bit more clearly. I can hear you listening a little bit better. I can hear all of these. Now, this was all relatively beautifully played, but then when you got here, what happened? Here, you didn't listen with quite the same clarity that you did before. And then... Right? What does he write there in measure 31?
Renuda?
Yeah. In Chopin, what does ritenuto mean?
I mean, I guess...
What does it normally mean?
Just slowing down and...
Uh-huh. Yeah. So in Chopin, ritenuto doesn't mean slowing down. It means slower tempo. It means straight up just slow.
Oh, okay.
Not a process of slowing down. A slower tempo. Like I clicked 4 clicks lower on the metronome. Immediate.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is another thing. Just a pro tip. In the future, whenever there's anything on the page you don't understand, what do?
Search it up.
Yeah, because you guys have Google. You live in the digital era. When I was your age, I still had to go to the library to read up on the stuff. Different time period. So you literally have no excuse for not knowing this stuff, right? It takes you 15 milliseconds to Google it. All right. Now. Here. Right? It's a different speed because strange harmonies are afoot. And we don't expect this, right? And this is another thing. This whole thing here, this run also has a lot of vocal qualities, right? That leap again, right? And you did it very well. You could do even more, taking more time, and then as it filters down, right, allowing it to kind of come back down to earth. So, play it again from, and really listen to how the melody develops. Don't allow any single interval to be played without you really actively listening to it. If it goes down, if it goes up, whatever the shape is, listen very, very carefully, okay? Yeah. See, still. That G sharp to A, I didn't quite hear. Can you play that right there? Da-da. There we go. Are you doing one pedal per measure? No, before here.
I'm changing the middle.
I would honestly pedal on every single quarter. Pedal. Because there's so many semitones. Half steps, melodic half steps in the pedal. When you share a pedal for melodic half steps, you got to be very careful. It usually ends up sounding really muddy and gross. So be very careful. So to cure the problem, just pedal on every now. This is not even that fast. So it's not super hard. Yeah. Very good. However, at the very end, that C sharp, first of all, at the C sharp's the end of the phrase, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is weird because it's a dissonance. And it's what kind of note? Rhythm.
Oh, it's an eighth note.
It's an eighth note. It's not a quarter. It's not. No, it's. It's awkward. It's weird. He wrote that for a very specific reason. It's not. It might feel strange to do it, but when you do it like he wrote, it's much more expressive. Because it's Tom T. That's what he's doing. He wants it to feel like it's gasping. Right? So, give me that. This again. Yeah, there too. Pedal. Pedal. On every quarter. Yeah, because there's that really beautiful viola line right there that we need to hear. So I really hesitate to bring up recordings of famous people, but Cortot, when he plays this, he has this is one of those lines that he plays really beautifully. He goes, oh, it's so beautiful. All of a sudden it comes out of nowhere. He goes, right? So that these gasps, and more, the music is gasping, right? So, try that. Good. Pretty good. Now, I'm sorry for stopping you so much. It's kind of frustrating, I know. But here, what's the rhythmic unit? How are you counting this? Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're counting in 3, right? I would say count in 2. 2, 1, 2. In other words, I want you to count in dotted half notes. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Right? Because I don't want you to think about it in quarters because it makes it sound very stuck. It's MT, onka, onka, unta. That's the flow of it. Very good. What's the difference? How do you make a difference between and the agitato?
Well, there's an accent on the.
Yeah. So give it to me. So in other words, give me less of these when you get to the agitato. The agitato should be now. Where does the sempre più mosso happen? Yes, it does not happen there, right?
Okay.
So hold back a little bit. Now, at the very top of it, here. There's a rest. And we're at the top of the mountain. You have to feel like we've arrived, and then we take a deep breath, and then slide down the mountain. Don't get to the top and completely ignore it, right? And then go. Okay. Come up. It's like the roller coaster. You come up, and then whoosh, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me from the agitato, please. Much better. Now, in this section, what's more important, the right hand or the left hand?
Probably the left.
Yes. Thank you. I don't want to hear so much that stuff. It's a decoration. It's a wave. I can't actually play this without practicing. I'm just making up G minor scales now, but whatever. Yeah, before that also. That's important. The top of that, right? And then when you get here, making sure that you're hearing very much how the left hand is progressing. Right? Because then what happens? It drops to the... That's the music. That's the drama of the music. The right hand is merely the surface decorations. Understood?
Yeah.
Give it a try. Now here's where, what was the word that I told you to remember from earlier?
Asymmetry.
Yes. This entire section is about being asymmetrical, okay? He wrote these odd phrase lengths just so you don't get stuck in the pattern of 6/4, okay? So now, first of all, here, measure 66, there's another what?
Renudo.
Aha. if there's any place that the point is more clear, I couldn't find another better example of this, of not preparing downbeats, right? And this is a particularly egregious one here. This one. That one. Right? Because he couldn't have made it more clear that he wants that E flat as the end of the phrase. He wants T, right? Not. Right? So there's that asymmetry in. And then. All of these phrases kind of fall somewhere on a beat that they're not supposed to. You understand? Which makes it move forwards. It makes it much more interesting. Give it a try. Yeah. So even though you're not you're trying to, I know physically it's hard because the left hand has to jump.
Yeah.
But it's actually not that far. Like, you can do it. You have way more technique than is required. So do not allow the left hand to determine the rhythm of the right hand. You understand? The right hand is the soprano. This is the singer. This is the soloist. This is the diva. If you ask the soprano to wait for the orchestra, they'd kill you.
Yeah.
All right? So don't do that. Let your soprano lead and let everybody else follow. So good. This is all right. Now, yes, you took what I said about asymmetry, and guess what? Now you're applying it. This is much better. So much better than when it was when you first played it. Why? Because now you're leaning into the weird phrase marks that he wrote. Now you're starting to understand why he wrote them, right? It's to destabilize. It's to make sure that the phrase does not fall into 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, right? Because it's very easy, especially with the left hand. Gong ka ka ki ka ka, gong ka ka ki ka. It becomes very predictable. However, how you're playing it now is much more beautiful because the phrases are always split on the off beats, right? So it's, and even there, 75, those 3 quarter notes, you did not play them all exactly the same. And that was beautiful. Exactly. Allow it to move forwards when it needs to move forwards. Okay? Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Do that one more time. That was excellent. And keep on going. So this is one of the spots where you missed one of the great, beautiful moments, which is the... You hear that? The alto voice, the viola voice is so beautiful. And then where does it resolve? Yeah, it's incredible because it resolves on a beat that you're not expecting it. It's all over the place, right? Again, asymmetry. So beautiful. And then again. Now this time, we rise, right? And then we rise even more. And then the most. It's all about hearing the minute details and how things escalate, right? It goes up again. And then the final time, it's this, we're finally coming down from the very top. It's hearing how to place and judge all these things in an escalating order, okay? So can you play again and really give me that beautiful viola line? Okay. It's already better, but you treat a minor third the same way you treat a major sixth. And if you're playing any other instrument other than the piano, you would know how patently false that is. It's much harder to get from here to here than it is from here to here. So you have to understand that. For us, it's not. We can do all sorts of crazy stuff on the piano. On other instruments, that's just simply not possible. There's a struggle there. It's not just da da, like just all eighth notes. No. And then intervals, differences of interval, content, and direction. You have to hear all of it because that's really the story of the music. That's the unspoken linguistics of how the music is communicating its emotions. Okay? Can you play that again and really listen to those intervals?
This will be our last minute.
Da da ya. Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. That's a completely different thing that you just played. Right? Now, the thing is, you as the pianist, your job is what? Your job is to translate and show the audience what's in the music. It's all here, right? Your role is a translator, but as a translator, sometimes you have to exaggerate. Sometimes you have to amp things up a little bit so that the audience can understand it, right? So as long as you can hear it, as long as you're paying attention to the certain details in the music, and then you bring it out, the audience will. But if you can't hear it, you cannot possibly expect the audience to hear it. You see what I mean? Yeah. All right. Good. You're on a very good track with this. Remember, asymmetry is good. Never prepare your downbeats. Never prepare your downbeats. Like, this is something that drives me insane. And the rhythm and phrasing and grouping, these things are all very interconnected, and they're more nuanced than saying, okay, we're in 6/4 and we need to have our quarter notes be steady. And it's not that simple ever, right? And the more nuance you can get about how rhythm flows, what the actual tempo, what the actual flow of the individual parts of the music are, then the more accurate you will be and the more specific you will be. That's another word that's really important, is specificity. Being really specific about what you want to hear, what you want the audience to hear. The more specific you are, the more memorable and effective your performance will be. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. It was very, very nice working with you. You're how old are you?
14.
Yeah, you have a bright future. Generally, kids of your age, your fingers tend to outstrip your ears, right? But whenever I ask you to start listening, you really do, and you immediately hear the difference. You understand? That's the thing. It has nothing to do with your hands. It has everything to develop, because half of practicing is developing your ears, what to listen to, how to listen, and then how to listen while you're playing, which is super hard. But you're doing great. You're doing great. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I just want to close this this class just by thanking Larry for being here today. I learned a lot about intervals in Chopin that I'll be applying to my own playing. And Jerry, I wish you a wonderful lifetime of music, regardless of what that looks like. Whether it's as a career musician, someone who supports the arts but chooses a different career, I hope that the piano is never too far from you. And this piece brings me back to the most heartbreaking scene of my favorite movie, The Pianist.
Okay, so there's a story about that. It's the wrong piece.
What do you mean it's the wrong piece?
You know that the Pianist was originally a book, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Did he put something else for the dude?
Yes, because it's more poetic this way. So the piece that he was playing when the radio station was bombed off the air was the C-sharp minor posthumous nocturne. And so all the years later, when the SS officer discovers him in the house, what piece is it that he plays for him? It's the C-sharp minor nocturne. The circle is complete. That was the whole thing.
Okay, so he played the same piece for the... Okay.
Yeah, so that's like when they changed it, I lost my mind because I'm like, they completely misunderstood the point.
Okay, so
You know
Jerry,
what I mean?
in a few years, like maybe when you're 16, you're pretty close to being able to watch this movie. You could maybe watch it now. There's some pretty gruesome stuff. A 2001 Roman Polanski film called The Pianist, about a real pianist named Władysław Szpilman, who underwent the ordeal of being Jewish in Poland in World War II. So really highly recommend that film. So much of Chopin's beautiful music is basically a character in the movie throughout. But thank you again to everybody. And everybody keep practicing.
Please.
What are you practicing, Larry?
I'm just trying to survive these days. But I'm learning the Pavane. And I think my program for the spring is going to be Shall We Dance? So it's going to start with... Right, and then a set of Schubert, Lendler, and Brahms waltzes. And then the second half will be the Pavane, and then the Valse Noble and Sentimentale.
Sounds like a killer program.
Yeah, it should be nice.
Cool. Jerry, if you're ever in Vancouver, please email. Would love to take you for dim sum. You too, Larry.
Yeah, and if you anytime you want to, you have any questions or you want to play for me again, like, you have my email now. It's I always enjoy working with talented young kids like you, because it's a rarity nowadays to find people who have that kind of dedication towards doing a difficult thing, because it's hard. It is hard, and it's supposed to be hard. But the fact is that you put in the work, and you're seeing the results. So
yeah, congrats, Jerry. Thank you, and thanks, Larry.